I'm going to be talking a little bit today about caregiving through the holidays, something that we all experience and have stress of various sorts, but also have a lot of joy to experience. I am not an expert in this, but I think after a lifetime of family gatherings, I at least have a little experience in this area. We're going to talk about finding ways to celebrate and minimize stress during the holidays. Well, it's probably important first to talk about what a holiday is. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines holidays as, one, a holy day, basically putting the words together. It's also defined as a special day of celebration, a day when most people do not have to work. And so there are lots of holidays, holy days through the year. In the Jewish community, in September, October, we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, and then Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. In November and December, Hanukkah takes place, which is an 8-day festival remembering the season of lights when the lights stayed lit even when there was no oil. And then Passover is in late March to late April, celebrating and remembering the Exodus out of Egypt. Muslim holy days, the primary one is Ramadan, which occurs based on the moon cycle. Ramadan is a 30-day time when persons fast during the day and they abstain from earthly pleasures. And then at the end of Ramadan, on Eid al-Fitr, they celebrate with food and family gatherings as a time to end their day-long fast. But it's also a day to do acts of charity. And in the Muslim community, persons would be going to take care of friends and family on this day. In the Christian cycle of holy days, there are two primary events: Christmas, which is December 25th, and Easter, which takes place late March to late April, about the same time as Passover. They often coincide with each other. And then there are all the other holidays. We have Halloween and Thanksgiving, non-religious Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's. If you know Seinfeld, you know Festivus for the rest of us. 4th of July, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, St. Patrick's Day. There are holidays throughout the year. But primarily we think of the time that people struggle with is this time frame with Thanksgiving and Christmas as the holiday season. Well, what's important about all of these? Food, primarily, I think, a lot of times. Family, getting us all together to enjoy time together. And fun. I think this kind of describes what we all are experiencing right now. You'll notice that the snowman is dressed as a pilgrim and he has his trick-or-treat bag. The jack-o'-lantern is also dressed as Santa Claus, and the couple as they're walking by says, guess it was inevitable. So Merry Thanksgiving from September 1st to January 1st. Well, holidays can create stress no matter if we are taking care of someone or if we're just having a family gathering. Any gathering of family and friends can be stressful, whether it's because we are the host or because we're attending and not really sure how we fit into this group. It just creates a lot of stress as we come together. Even though we love one another, it is hard sometimes to be together. And the expectation is often that this will be the best, insert your holiday, ever. The year before my dad died, the Christmas before he died, we gathered as a family from the Four Winds. I was in seminary in Washington, D.C. My brother was working political campaigns in Northwest Iowa. And we came back to Burlington to be together for Christmas. And as we were gathering as a family, we kept hearing on TV and everywhere that this was going to be the best Christmas ever, and we laughed about that. Well, my dad died the next year, and I think back on that Christmas and think, well, yes, that was the best Christmas ever. But as compared to the next Christmas, there were other things that were wonderful about that next Christmas, too. There were changes in how we celebrated. There were things that we did as a family that were different. So while we think of it as maybe the best Christmas ever, sometimes we need to change our expectations and realize that it's not just that particular time. Every year is different as we gather together. Families often say, with tradition, that we've always done it this way. I served a country church for a few years that it was two little churches that closed because their buildings were inaccessible and the congregation was getting older. So they closed the older buildings, came together, became a new congregation, and built a new building. I came as their pastor the summer after the building was finished. And we got to Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we were getting ready to decorate the church for that year. And they all looked at me and said, where do we put things? How do we decorate the sanctuary? And I said, I don't know. I've never been in this building either. And it was interesting to watch this group of people realize that they couldn't say, we've always done it this way, because they were in a new place and things had changed and their experience was different. And they worked together and figured out how to decorate together and bring a new tradition into that place. And if we look at our families and we say, we've always done it this way, we probably discover that every year something has changed in that tradition that we think we've always done. Maggie, the director at Iowa City Hospice, and I were talking earlier about hosting. When we're the host of a family gathering, that responsibility takes on a level of stress that can be overwhelming at times, especially if, like myself, you're in charge of the entire meal. I now ask others to help with the meal. But just being ready for the family and keeping the house clean and gathering everybody into that space, it takes a lot of energy and creates a lot of stress. When you're a caregiver, holidays take on a whole different meaning because caregiving is a 24/7 job. Holidays are just another day on the calendar. Caregiving goes on whether it is December 25th or March 5th. The same things have to happen during that day. There's still the daily activities of bathing and dressing, toileting, feeding, medications, sleeping, cleaning. All those things continue whether it is December 25th or March 5th. And the established daily routine will be disrupted by holiday activities, especially if the home where the person is being cared for becomes the hosting home. The daily routine is interrupted. I'm much more aware of this particular slide in the last few years because my father-in-law is in the middle stages of dementia. And what we have discovered, what we learned as we go along, is that things change every day, sometimes minute by minute. We realized it the year that he was asked to wrap all the gifts. His wife asked him to wrap the gifts. We started opening up presents at Christmas, and every gift was wrong, and she was mortified that this had happened. But we were not aware yet. We were beginning to get some inklings that there was something going on. But this was really one of those signs that there really was a problem. Persons with Alzheimer's on holidays and any kind of gathering when there are new people in the house, have difficulty with the change in their routine. They're used to things happening in a certain way. They may not remember that, but they know there's a routine. Noise can be overwhelming. I know when our family gets together and the grandchildren are running through the house and we're all talking as loud as we possibly can to be heard, you can see as my father-in-law begins to just shut down and not listen. It's too much going on. For persons with Alzheimer's, when there are strange people in the house, when they're not even sure if this is really their home, they have difficulty with that, and they struggle with who that other person is or who those other people are. And sundowning may increase because of all the other factors that are happening, all the stresses that are coming into the household. So what can we do to make it easier? Stress is one of those things that we just have to accept is going to happen as we experience family gatherings and as we enjoy being together. So one of the first things we need to do is adjust our expectations. We need to remember that the day-to-day routine will be different than before. We need to look at the schedule and decide how we can change things to make things more comfortable, and we may need to adapt and adjust our celebrations to match the current reality. I am a firm believer in to-do lists and calendars. It's how I make sure that I get everything done on the schedule and hopefully have hot food on the table when we're ready for it. Doing a little bit each day and delegating tasks so that the person in charge is not the only one having to do everything. And I want to share just a piece from a blog. This is called Have a Realistic and Positive Holiday Experience. It's by Carol Bradley Bursack. And she's talking about her family and their circumstance. She's one of those persons who is a sandwich person. She's taking care of parents, but then also has children and grandchildren that she's working with too. And she had this to say about her need to change her expectations. Right after Thanksgiving each year, I would decorate my mother's apartment. Dad was by then in a nursing home. After Mom joined him in the same nursing home, different private room, I would decorate her room, my dad's room, and my mother-in-law's room. Then, of course, I'd decorate our home. Then the planning would start as to how to handle all the generations, meeting everyone's expectations for the holidays. The guilt about taking so much time from the kids ate at me. The guilt about my mother not having a Christmas celebration she coveted ate at me. My mother-in-law seemed not to care, yet I knew underneath the dementia she did. The frustration of trying to celebrate the holidays when my dad no longer knew what we were trying to do made me want to throw in the towel. Yet, to ignore the holidays seemed wrong. So onward I marched, trying to make the holidays sing for people who couldn't hear. When I read that, I thought about all the times that I have tried to do everything for everybody and discovered that all I did was wear myself out. The idea of decorating everybody's rooms and then going home and decorating your own home just is overwhelming. So sometimes we just need to change our perspective of how we do things and what we expect will happen with the celebration. So we may need to establish new traditions. Sometimes it just takes going to a different location. Our family has tried going to, not being in somebody's home, but going to a community room like this or to a church fellowship hall, just to provide more space so that the kids can run wherever they want to, and we can have some time as a family. It may also be going to a restaurant, gathering at a restaurant, or having someone else host the celebration, or even catering in the meal. And I brought a visual effect just because it was in my paper recently. I'm not advertising for Hy-Vee, but this has a whole list of how you could order your entire Thanksgiving meal, your whole Christmas meal, and not have to cook a thing. They would bring it to you. And I know you can find this online. There are other grocery stores and caterers that do that too, that you could contact and use that as a way to not have to do all the cooking. Have somebody else do the cooking for you and have more time then to be with family and enjoy that time. Put the tree in a different place. A family a few years ago said to me and said to our team that they couldn't have a hospital bed in their living room because that's where the Christmas tree went. And we talked about it and discovered that what was really behind this was that they just didn't want that hospital bed. Their family member really needed to be in a hospital bed. And so we talked about some things that they could do, and in the process they discovered that there was another place in the room that they could put the Christmas tree and still have the hospital bed, and their family member could then enjoy the holiday with them and be able to see the tree. And it all worked out in the end, but sometimes we just need to think in a different way. Where can we put things, or where can we celebrate? It might mean being in a different room in the house, or just not having a tree that year. There are ways to find establishing new traditions. This is a big one for all of us. Ask and receive help. Meal preparation is a big part of that. It might be asking that everybody bring something to share with the meal, or having others come into the kitchen and help with the preparation, or setting the table, or whatever it is that needs to be done, doing some things that make it so it's easier for the person preparing. You also might want to have someone who will sit with your family member. I do this frequently with our family as we gather. We'll go down in the family room while everybody else is off doing other things, and I'll just sit with my father-in-law, and he and I will talk quietly and do things together, and it gives him a moment to be away from everything that's going on. Also might be that you need to have somebody just be in the room with a family member for a while, just to give them a break during the day. Something that we all need to learn to do with our families. Communicate, communicate, communicate. We need to talk with our families about what we need help doing. It may not just be the holiday preparations. There may be some other things that you need help with during the day as the daily routine has changed. Asking for help and explaining what you need will make it an easier experience. Accept all reasonable requests for assistance and practice saying no. Families are well-meaning and often will offer to do things that in their minds seem really helpful, but may not make things easier for you. So accept all reasonable requests for assistance and practice saying no. Another strategy, let sleeping dogs lie. During the holiday season is not the time, during a Thanksgiving meal that lasts for 2 hours or a Christmas day, is not the time to criticize either the caregiver or those who you may feel are not pulling their weight. It's better to plan a time to talk before or after the holidays when the stress is not so high about concerns and needs. It might also be a time, if families need to talk together, to set aside some time. If this is the only time that everyone's going to be together, to set some time in the afternoon or the evening when the principal players in the family, the brothers and sisters, the parents, can meet together and talk about caregiving needs that might be coming up, if there are some changes that need to take place. But it's not the time to criticize one another for what we are or are not doing. It is a good time to talk about care needs if there's a place to do that without getting into disagreements. And this one kind of follows in the same line. Recognize your holiday hot buttons. Try to avoid the pitfalls that can make things uncomfortable. When I was younger, my great aunt would always find a moment in the conversation to ask why I hadn't taken my husband's name in marriage. I have since changed my last name to his, but at that point in time I hadn't yet. And she always managed to pick a moment when I wasn't quite on paying attention, and she'd ask that question, and I would find myself getting very angry. Try to avoid those pitfalls and know that somebody will ask you that question that you really don't want to answer right now or during this time. Adjust and adapt. Be flexible. That is probably the biggest point that we all need to remember no matter what, is that we need to be able to adjust and adapt to what's going on, and we need to be flexible. Things will change. Things will happen. And remember, it's just a day or two. Take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the family. Focus on the present. As I said earlier, no holiday celebration is perfect, but if we focus on what's happening now, we can enjoy being together. If we focus on what once was, it only creates an expectation that cannot be lived up to in the present. We need to celebrate the here and the now, celebrate the present, family, and the joy of being together, of enjoying this time together. And so ways to do that. Scale down the celebration. As I said earlier, have a family potluck where everybody brings something for the meal. Oftentimes families will do that, whoever is hosting provides the main course, and then everyone else brings all the side dishes to go with it. You can also do, as I indicated earlier, cater in the meal. Talk to the grocery store, talk to a restaurant. Find some way so you don't have to prepare the meal. Change your gift-giving practices. One of the things that we did as a family, as we were all adults and we had just a few small children, is that we changed how we did gifts. We now have gifts for the children, but then the adults, we have gift card Uno. What we do is everybody buys $30 worth of gift cards from various places, and we play Uno. And if you win the game of Uno, you get to pick a gift card. And if the next person wins and they want your gift card, they get to take your gift card. Once you have 3 gift cards, you're done. It has been a fun way for us to enjoy being together, and we all then get to use our gift cards for things that we might like to get later on. That's just an example of a way to change how you do gift giving. And and make it a fun experience where everybody participates. I said earlier about creating a quiet room. This is especially important for persons with Alzheimer's and dementia, that they have someplace they can go to get away from the noise and the activity, to kind of resettle and in some ways cocoon for a little bit to come back together. This can be that they go to their bedroom and rest for a little bit. It could be that everybody goes outside to play if it's a nice day and they have a little bit of time to just be in their chair or wherever they like to rest. There are ways to do that so that they can have some time away. We need that time away too. Sometimes we need to go and find a quiet space during the hustle and bustle of the holiday and take some time to ourselves. Skyping. This is happening more and more, that families are discovering they can't get everybody together, or that they have family members who are in care centers who are not able to attend family gatherings. And Skyping is a way that with a computer, the family member can communicate, talk with other family members. I heard recently of a family reunion that they did this. The couple was in a care facility and there was a line at the computer to say hello to the two of them and to greet them. Just a nice way so that they feel connected to the family when they're not able to be present at the gathering. Many families do this too. Change the menu to something easy to prepare. Instead of having turkey, have chili and soups, or do sandwiches. Do something different so that there is less time in the kitchen, more time together to enjoy. And a very important piece for all of us, we need to plan for self-care. You need to figure out some time in the day when you can do something for yourself, or maybe with another family member that you like to do things with. You need to take some time, even if it's just closing your eyes for 10 minutes. Exercise regularly. Get out and take a walk or exercise in some way. Drink plenty of water. We all tend to get dehydrated during the holiday seasons because we're so busy doing stuff. And while it's hard on the day of the family gathering, try to eat a healthy diet before and after as much as possible, because that helps. We get a lot of toxins in our systems, and trying to get that out of our system is really important. Prior to and after the family gatherings, schedule a massage. I already have my pre-Thanksgiving massage scheduled. Go and get a manicure or a pedicure. Take some time to walk, read. Always, always take a nap. And if you're like our family, after the meal, we're all sleeping. It's just important to take some time for yourself before and after the holiday. So some concluding thoughts. Holidays are at the core a time to be together. All the stuff that is the trimmings, all the decorations and the activities and the things that we think we have to do, they're just additions to what we already have. And what is important is that time together, time with family and friends. So place the emphasis on what is important: family, friends, gathering together. And then, as I've said over and over, relax, take a deep breath, focus on the present, what's happening right now, and be flexible. If we can do any of these things, the holidays will be easier and slightly less stressful. I want to end with a quote from Fred Rogers before we go into questions. And Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I like to compare the holiday season with the way a child listens to a favorite story. The pleasure is in the familiar way the story begins, the anticipation of familiar turns it takes, the familiar moments of suspense, the familiar climax, and the ending. Thank you all for sharing with me in this time, and we're going to take a little bit of time for questions. I do want to say that I have handouts of the strategies at the end, because it just was a lot of information. So I have some handouts for you after we're all done.
I know we started having like going to different places for Christmas, and you know, in our family. And a couple of years ago, I started it by checking with Mercer. You know, they have a room there, and for less than $100, you can get it reserved for 6 hours and have it all to yourself. And you know, everybody helps clean up, and I had catered from the Hy-Vee, so it worked really well. And then, you know, the same way with the gift things. They have it arranged so the family, you know, my oldest to youngest this year, but before they just drew names randomly, you know, and so, you know, there are other ways to do it. You don't have to go shopping and do all that stuff, and it still works.
Yeah. Caregiving is 365 days, 24/7, and Christmas is just the same, is a number just like another number in the year. Caregiving goes on, no matter what. Yeah.
Two comments. One, my brother and I started giving each other's charity a gift at Christmas time in honor of each other, and that's worked out really well. Actually, we give to the same place, but in different names. And the other thing was talking about the quiet, people needing quiet. My grandfather got to the point where my folks lived one place in a mobile home, and my aunt lived down the street in a big house, and so we'd have the celebrations one place or the other, and wherever we were, he would be at the other place, because it was just too much for him to deal with all the noise and confusion, and so he just go someplace else.
Yeah, yeah. And kind of a partner to that, some care facilities have rooms that families can rent or use for a holiday gathering, and that makes it so that you can be in the care center where the person is living, but they're not having to be in the family gathering all the time, and people can go down and visit them in their rooms, or they can come and be a part of the gathering for a short time. That's another way to bring everybody together.
And that worked really well for us. We had people come from all over, you know, like they're coming from Texas and Utah and Minnesota and Missouri and Iowa. And we also did that at assisted living for a friend of mine, and they came from all over. And it's really nice because you can get that set aside for you for that time, and everybody brings something. Even if you're from out of town, you can buy it in stores. And it was very nice.
Rebecca, do you have any suggestions on how to ask for help?
That's something I've learned to do because I'm not good at asking for help. I'm very self-sufficient, I think. But I've discovered that I just don't like standing up for that long a time in the kitchen like I once did. You know, I used to be able to stand in the kitchen for hours and cook and do everything. And so one way to do that is to talk with family members about what kind of celebration you want to have. If we want to have time with just soups and sandwiches, who would like to bring different types of soup? We have plug-ins, bring your crock pot. So that would take care of some of the food kinds of things, sharing that responsibility. With times when you need some support during the holiday to take care of someone, I would talk with family members that I know would be okay with helping with toileting and bathing and some things like that. I'd also talk with family members who might be willing to sit with a family member while we're doing other things. You know, just trying to say, I can't do this myself anymore. How can you all help me with this? We just have to be willing to ask. And that's something that's hard to do because we think we can do it all. We can take care of everything.
Just to add to that a little bit, I think that caregivers also don't recognize the fact that those that aren't caregivers are unsure of what to do. So it's good when the caregiver can give some guidance to other people, because they really do, for the most part in families, want to do something. And so, you know, it is good to just ask, because I think people are very receptive to helping out.
And we can be good teachers. We can help family members to learn some of the things that we do without getting into criticism about, well, if you were here, you could do this. I do it all the time. Finding ways to say, let me show you what we do to take care of a sponge bath, or, you know, some things that are easier to do when we package up food. Sometimes families will do little groups of food for family members that can't eat a lot. Just little things you can do and teach. Be a good teacher of your experience, because we are all experienced in something wonderful, caring for another person.
Also, we changed the time that we did Christmas. We're scheduled is the day after Thanksgiving, because everybody's had a big celebration then, and usually they have that day and the next day off. And so we do it then, and then everybody can come, and the travel arrangements are a lot easier because the weather's better. And then I've also got a week down in Branson after that, that I'm going by myself.
And that's in the self-care. Yeah, having holiday gatherings at a different time, doing it before. I know a family that had their Christmas and Thanksgiving 2 weeks ago. Some families, our family waits until the weekend after New Year's, because it's just easier to get everybody together then. Finding a different time is another way to do that.
Another tough question is, how do you have any suggestions on, you say be flexible, and I hear that, but sometimes knowing how to do that is hard. Any suggestions on how to get there?
Being flexible. That kind of goes back to the asking for help. We have to be willing to let go of things that we hold so closely, that we think we have to do. I'm trying to think of an example. Allowing somebody else to set the table. My great aunt was a person that everything had its place. She had particular Thanksgiving turkeys that went on the table, and she had them in their particular place. The year that she let somebody else set the table, it was like a weight came off of all of us, because we'd all been tiptoeing around the table all those years. And it really was a moment of flexibility for her. She realized that she couldn't do it anymore, and she needed to have somebody else do it. But she had to ask, and she had to be willing to receive that assistance. So flexibility, sometimes it's just backing up and saying, I can't do this anymore, somebody else help me. Other times it's just saying, I'm just not going to say anything now, and let this moment be.
And being flexible, you have to be willing to have it not maybe be done the way you have always done it.
Yeah.
You have to accept the fact that it might be different.
Yeah.